Once upon a time on Earth, aliens known as the Scub Corals decided to crash the party, polluting the air with particles called TRAPAR. Humanity's only hope was to fight them using special mechas. Only one in a billion could do it. And guess what? Our main character is the jackpot winner. Meet Al. His dad left for milk before he was born, classic excuse, and his mom, Eureka, vanished when he was 3. Raised by Toshio, his adoptive grandpa, Al tried to live a normal life. But life had other plans, like bullying him for his blue hair. So he had to dye it brown every week, like a weirdly committed chameleon. Al found solace in his friend Naru, a sweet girl who could sense future events, like a living weather forecast, but cooler. She dreamt about a huge fire that would shake the world, which sounds like an excellent plot twist. One night, Al was working late when a flying car crash-landed in the sand. When Al went to check what's inside, out popped a bright green bracelet. After emanating some flashy green light from its engine, naturally the car turned into a scub coral because why not? Panicking, Al grabbed Naru, jumped into their flying car, and zoomed off. But then a giant monster showed up and obliterated the coral. Just another Tuesday. The next day on his way to school, Al saw the same brilliant light. Cue panic mode. There were 2 grand mysterious light this time which caused distress in the local public. A huge coral crashed down, causing chaos, sending shockwave in the whole vast land. A G-monster appeared, shooting lasers like it was having a bad day. Al dodged, yelled, and ran, hoping Naru and Toshio were okay. Spoiler, they weren't. The G-monster kept on shooting lasers like he was auditioning for Power Rangers. Arriving at Naru's house, Al burst into tears because she wasn't home. His mysterious bracelet lit up, displaying the names Eureka and Ayo. Flashback, his mom's bracelet. Just then, Gazelle, the guy who almost ran him over, appeared, wanting the bracelet for the Japanese armed forces. Al bit him like a cornered puppy. Fizal decided to take Al to a Japanese Navy ship. The bracelet was the key to a powerful flying ship needed to fight the G-monsters. But Al wasn't giving it up easily. They argued over the bracelet as to who should keep it, typical teenager. A gun starts shooting, and he jumped out of the car, landed on the ship, and tried to start the engine. Nope, it refused. Typical. A G-monster went berserk, hitting the Navy ship, and Al ended up in the ocean. As he was blacking out, a message appeared. "Welcome home, Eureka." His eyes widened as the mecha engine powered up, turning his hair blue. Super Saiyan time. He aims to get out of the ocean and starts the mecha. Al piloted the mecha, dodging lasers like a pro, transforming it into a mechanical human form. He charged at the monster, only to get sent flying. Ouch. He tries to take control of his mecha, but the G-monster keeps on firing his guns on Al. Al thinks he has to lead the monster away from the island. Not giving up, he led the monster away to save the islanders. In a dramatic finale, he used the mecha's arm to smash the monster's head, saving everyone. Despite his heroics, the villagers thought he and his mom were to blame for the monster attacks. Thanks, guys. Naru managed to locate Ao, who was an emotional wreck, fearing that he and his mother would take the blame for the sudden appearance of the coral in the monster mashups. True to her gentle nature, Naru embraced him warmly, expressing gratitude for his protective presence during their island ordeal. Together they walked back to where Io had stashed the flying ship, where he solemnly vowed to never take to the skies again. Upon their return, however, the villagers, swept up in paranoia and suspicion, promptly apprehended Ao, locking him away in a room, convinced that he and his missing mother were somehow responsible for the coral's ominous arrival. Ivica from Generation Blue, a group studying G-monsters, burst in, revealing that Al's robot, Nervash, was piloted by his mom. Gazelle and crew showed up, and Al had to battle another G-monster. Typical Wednesday. Al initially refused to fight, seeing his grandpa's home in flames. But then he realized the bracelet meant he was destined to pilot Nervash. Having a change of heart, Al soared into the sky with Nervesh, shifting into human form to take on the monster. He boldly entered the beast's lair, a place where everything moved under its creepy radar. Out of the blue, the monster launched missiles at Al, but thankfully, Floor from the Blue Generation swooped in just in time to rescue him. Fleur and Al joined forces to tackle the enemy. Fleur provided a distraction while Ao dove headfirst into the chaos. He soared above the monster, unleashing a barrage of shots that sent it exploding, throwing him back in the blast. Ao woke up on the beach, saved by a stranger who surprisingly turned out to be quite friendly, thanks to a favor Eureka did for him years ago when a monster nearly did him in. The man introduced himself as Ivica and filled Ao in on Eureka's heroic deeds across the globe. He revealed that Al's mom vanished after a run-in with a scub burst, sparking hope in Al that she might still be out there. Motivated by this revelation, Al decided to join Generation Blue to hunt for his mom. At the base, Al settled in for a few days, only to be interrupted by news of an intruder hunting for Nervash. Ao dashed to the scene and hopped into Nervash to confront the intruder. Suddenly, Truth the intruder landed on his mecha with unsettling ease. Rebecca from Generation Blue tried to fend Truth off, but got schooled instead. Talk about a tough day at the office. Ao took off, hoping to scare Truth away. But Truth stood tall, transforming into a menacing black figure that made Ao lose his cool and crash mecha. Out cold for 3 days, Ao dreamt a wild dream where Truth took his form and tried to coax Naru into joining him, claiming she needed to cozy up to corals to stay alive. Ao tried to convince Naru she was being hoodwinked, but Truth dropped Eureka's name, revealing he'd been stalking her via Nervash for years, and even battled her before she vanished. Ao went toe-to-toe with Truth until he whipped out his black shadowy form, leaving Naru to recall a figure who saved her during a coral blast a decade ago. Naru decided to tag along with Truth, leaving Ao feeling like he'd been ghosted by his only pal. Ao woke up relieved it was all a dream. But then Fleur dropped a bomb. Naru really had split with Truth, just like in his dream. Now, Ao's itching to find Naru, but the brass at Generation Blue have grounded him. They're too busy with a cosmic coral that's threatening to knock our satellites into next week. They're on the launch pad when Al flips out, blabbering about invisible wind flows. After a few tests, they reveal Al can see Trapar particles because, surprise, he's part alien. The proof? Pics of his mom touching down with Nervash years ago, right before she vanished in an explosion. Despite feeling as gloomy as a rainy day in a graveyard, Ao geared up for the fight ahead. His teammates flaunted their fiery talents to distract the G-monster that gate-crashed the coral demolition party, giving Ao the perfect opening to pepper it with machine gun fire. Switching gears, Ao turned his attention to demolishing the scub coral, but those pesky Japanese satellites decided to rain on his parade with a hail of shots, sending the coral hurtling towards Earth. Desperate to halt its descent, Ao battled against the forces of gravity that were pulling both him and the coral down faster than a free-falling piano. Just when he was about to throw in the towel, the coral ignited in a fiery blaze, cracking open to reveal a colossal spaceship within. Out stepped a mecha that looked uncannily like Nervesh, which swooped in and rescued him, landing gracefully on the ocean. The pilot, none other than Eureka, cheerfully introduced herself as Ao's mom, leaving him over the moon with joy at finally reconnecting after a decade. But his elation was short-lived when he realized she didn't recognize him and seemed more lost than a tourist without a map on Earth. Despite the heartwarming reunion, Ao was dumbfounded when he discovered Eureka was pregnant. He suggested she join Generation Blue for protection, but to his surprise, she dropped the bombshell that she wanted to reunite with her husband, Renton. Ao had always felt like his dad abandoned his mom, but now he realized Renton had been the unsung hero all along, fighting tooth and nail for Eureka's return. This revelation flipped Ao's perspective on his old man, and he began to see him in a new light. Members of Generation Blue rushed in to assist Ao and Eureka. Ivica tried to jog Eureka's memory of saving him years ago, but alas, her memory was as absent as a politician during election season. Ivica deduced that the Eureka they were seeing was from the past and the baby she carried was likely Ao himself. He warned that if Ao didn't send her back to her timeline, it could cause a cosmic ruckus. Gazelle barged in, wanting to hand Eureka over to the Japanese army for a handsome reward. Ao exploded with anger at the thought of losing his mom again after so long, and he promptly launched himself at Gazelle. Just as Ao spotted what he thought was Eureka, Truth popped up in disguise and knocked him flat with his shadowy tricks. On the building's roof, Ivico tries to fight Truth but could only last a second. When Ao regained his senses, he saw a vision of Naru that morphed into Eureka, revealing her true identity. She urged him to return her to Renton, but Io hesitated, torn between his long search for her and the dire consequences she warned of. Ao dove headfirst into battle to save Eureka, piloting Nervash. But Truth's overwhelming power proved to be too much. Their clash shook the heavens, but Truth managed to pin Nervash against the wall. Al unleashed his firepower, giving Eureka a window to sprint to her Nervash and confront Truth. The two mechas darted forward, launching a barrage at Truth, but his dark shield deflected every assault. Suddenly, a glimmering light appeared in the distance. A scub burst was imminent. If Eureka flew into the light, she'd zip back to her timeline. But Truth was having none of it. He pursued them as they streaked towards a luminous beam. Ao aimed Nervash's colossal cannon at Truth, hoping to buy Eureka some time. But in a twist that no one saw coming, Truth effortlessly sidestepped the shots and sucker-punched Nervash, leaving it wide open. Seizing the chance, Truth closed in on Eureka's mecha. Just in the nick of time, Alina swooped in with her spacecraft, crashing into Truth and sending him splashing into the sea. The Japanese Navy joined the fray, launching explosive missiles to prevent Eureka's escape. Nervash sprang to life on its own, ejecting Eureka from the cockpit to fend off Truth. Ao leapt into action, catching her mid-air with Nervash, unwilling to let her slip away again. Together, they rocketed towards a shimmering pillar of light, aiming to return her to her rightful time. But their path was blocked by a colossal AG monster that blasted laser beams at Ao's mecha. Ao fretted about lacking a weapon until Eureka touched a panel, unlocking Nervash's secret missile arsenal. With nerves of steel, Ao unleashed Nervash's missiles, reducing the G-monster to cosmic confetti in the blink of an eye. Before vanishing into the pillar of light, Eureka turned to Io and asked if he called her mama because she was expecting a baby. Instead of spilling the beans that he's her son, Ao wished her well and joked about having a healthy baby boy, only to be surprised when Eureka declared it would be a girl. She disappeared into the pillar of light, leaving Ao catching a fleeting glimpse of Nervash's partly broken form